What do Falcons do? Miss the playoffs. But that's not what we're talking about today. Welcome to RiseUpRXNs, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general, the sports news of the day. And today is going to be one of those days. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Dog and a lifelong sports fan, coming back to you to talk about the wild card round of the playoffs. Now, you have the number one seeds getting a bye this week with the Ravens in the AFC and the 49ers with the NFC, but that means that we have 6 games to talk about. Makes me sick to think about that we could have potentially had a Falcons Monday night game had it worked out, but it did not even come close to working out based on how Sunday went. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and pick these 6 games. All of these teams, I think, deserve to be in the playoffs. This is like the first year in a while, save for maybe the Buccaneers, that I've thought that every team did enough to actually be here. It's going to feel like this for a little while with the NFC South, though, as in, like, nobody's really going to deserve to be in that spot for, like, the next 2 years, probably, because I think we're going to have a garbage division the next couple. But anyway, finished 173-99, putting me in the 96.2nd percentile. I think I missed a game somewhere in there, maybe misclicked or it just didn't save, because I believe there's supposed to be one more game in there to get to the right number of overall games, just based on how I've heard some of the other videos shaking out. Surprisingly, no ties this year, and thank God, no forfeited games or no cancellations for medical reasons. But pretty good season. We're gonna see if I can go perfect for the playoffs. Don't think I will, but we're gonna start out strong here. Let's start with the AFC. You have the number 5 Browns taking on the number 4 Texans in Houston. Texans playing incredibly well, but almost giving up late in Indianapolis. They ended up making the playoffs. The Texans have overperformed for where they're at right now. I do think that they have a bright future, but I think this is going to be one of those tough games for them. It couldn't have been a worse opponent to go up against, and I do have the Cleveland Browns beating the Texans with Joe Flacco. I think this is going to be a really, really tight game. And again, the defensive showing of the Browns, they just lost to the Bengals. They didn't play a single starter, but the defensive powerhouse that is the Browns, easily the best defense in the league by a large margin, is going to be too much for young C.J. Stroud. They will have a good game. I do think they're going to score at least a couple of touchdowns, but I think ultimately Joe Flacco, as far as games that he's played, he has 4 300-yard games in a row. He has more touchdowns than some NFL franchises in just a few games this season. I do think the Browns find a way to make it on to the divisional round. Then we're going to go to the number 6 Dolphins at the Chiefs, number 3. Chiefs not playing particularly good football right now. They did beat the Chargers yesterday. Didn't really matter. They didn't play a ton of starters. It was a game that really didn't have a lot of meaning for the Chiefs. They had pretty much locked up the 3 seed. There was no chance that they were going to get the 2 seed, pretty much no matter what at that point. So there wasn't any need to be really aggressive with their starters. With that said, the Chiefs have not looked like a solid team, but it's hard to discount them in the playoffs. The Dolphins have finally found their way back to the postseason, and again, I think the Dolphins played well against Buffalo, but it was a tough environment, and it's still going to be a tough environment. I do, for whatever reason, though, I think that this is going to be a year where a lot of wild card teams upset people, and I think that you're going to have the Dolphins beat the Chiefs and knock them out of the wild card round, and the Chiefs are going to have a lot of thinking to do as to what they're going to do at the wide receiver position. And what they're going to do to try and get Patrick Mahomes some more weapons, because that's been the obvious problem this year. But I do have the Dolphins moving on. And then we have the Steelers at the Bills. The Steelers were lucky to make the playoffs, in my opinion, and the Bills, along with the Browns, are one of the most dangerous teams in the AFC playoff race. I don't have a lot to say here. I don't think the Steelers have much of a chance at Buffalo, but again, you never know. Weather could play a part of this. I'm making these predictions on a Monday. This video didn't come out till much later in the week, but we'll see what happens with weather. I am going to say, though, that the Bills take the Steelers, and that will set up the divisional round to be the Dolphins at the Ravens and the Browns at the Bills for the divisional round of the AFC. Then let's move on to the NFC. Let's talk about the Monday night game, which, again, the Falcons missed out on. Number 5 Eagles going to the number 4 Buccaneers. And the Eagles, my God, like they just are not playing well. They've been banged up, lost 5 of 6 here. They had a chance to lock up the number 2 seed any of the last few weeks. All they needed to do was win 2 games, and they couldn't do it. I don't know what to say here. but the Eagles just look bad. Tampa Bay's not necessarily a great team, but it is in Tampa Bay. You have Rachaad White who's playing well. Baker Mayfield is kind of a Houdini and a magician here. I don't really know what to say about him. They didn't play particularly good against Carolina, but again, I think that they are a team that probably is going to come alive here. They're coming off of at least a win, and again, emotional, making it to the playoffs. Mike Evans having a phenomenal year at wide receiver. Again, it's hard to say that he's ever not going to do that until he just one day falls off a cliff. I'm actually going to pick the Buccaneers over the Eagles, and it has nothing to do with me thinking that the Eagles are less talented. It has everything for me to do with momentum, with the injury to Jalen Hurts, with him breaking a finger, with A.J. Brown not being healthy. I just really think that you're going to have the Buccaneers move on here. I don't love it, but I do think that's going to happen. Then you have the Rams at the Lions, and this is hard for me. This is incredible football. This is the game that I hope to get to see. You have Matthew Stafford at the Rams, who's won a Super Bowl with the Rams, going back to Detroit, a team that finally, for the first time in forever, won their division and are hosting a playoff game. And you have the Lions coming back, the Lions who have been playing pretty good football overall, the Rams playing pretty good football overall. This should be the game of the week as far as I'm concerned. And I do think that the Lions are ultimately going to win. I've said the Rams are the most dangerous team in football, but I would have liked to see the Rams at the Cowboys. I think that was a better matchup for the Rams. I think the Lions are a tougher team, but this should be a very good game. I'm going to pick the Lions because in my heart of hearts, I want the Lions to make a deep playoff run. I can't be happier for that team after all of the years, basically almost 20 years of god-awful football and being the butt of jokes since, pre-Matthew Stafford days in the league. Either one of these teams could win, though. I think this is the game of the week for sure. Give me the Lions, though. And then we're going to go to the Packers at the Cowboys. Packers, you had an incredible run to get to the playoffs after being 2-4 at one point this season, but the ride must come to an end. And I do think it's going to come to an end against your old coach, Mike McCarthy. Nothing would make me happier, though, than the Packers to pull some shenanigans and once again confirm that the Cowboys do not know how to play football in January. But the Cowboys are coming off of a huge win. They locked up the number 2 seed. CeeDee Lamb is having a lights-out contract year. I can't help but pick the Cowboys in this situation. I think they're a better team overall. So, yeah, give me the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Buccaneers. This one is where I think that you're going to have more of the higher seeds winning. If anybody was going to upset someone, though, I would say the Rams have the highest chance of upsetting the Lions. I would say the Buccaneers are actually the underdog in their game, but with the Eagles playing as bad as they are, I just have to give it to the Buccaneers right now. That's going to set up the 49ers at the Buccaneers at the 49ers. It's also going to set up the Lions at the Cowboys for a rematch. I am hoping that we see 49ers and Lions for the championship game, and I'm hoping that we see Browns and Ravens just for the memes of Joe Flacco going back to play the Ravens in the AFC championship game. Obviously, different things can happen, and the way that I predicted this, if the Chiefs were to beat the Dolphins, we would get that Browns-Ravens rematch in the divisional round, which, again, should be very compelling football and a very good game. I don't have a lot else for you guys. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hopefully I picked 6 right this week, and we'll see how things go. But we're in the playoffs, and we're coming down to the end of the season. As always, rise up.